Hi book lovers, and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from today's title, I'm doing something very fun today. I'm tier ranking Jessa Kane's entire backlist, every single one of her smutty novellas, all 74 of them. I don't even know how long this video is going to end up, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a doozy. I had to do a little reread of all of her books to prepare for this video, so my brain might be a little fried right now. I mean, if you've read any Jessa Kane novella, you know how insane her books are. She is known for her smut, for her daddy kink, for her age gap, and especially for her over-the-top, psycho, unhinged, possessive, and obsessive heroes. If you've never read Jessa Kane before, she writes ridiculous smut, basically. Like 90% of her books have daddy kink, 95% of her heroines are 18-year-old versions. If you're not a fan of age gaps, if you're not a fan of the hero liking to be called daddy, like there is an excessive amount of daddy kink in her novellas, then Jessa Kane is probably not going to be for you. But if you know me, you know I am a Jessa Kane stan. I have read every single one of her novellas. Every time she released something new, I would drop everything to read it. I mean, they're only 50 to 70 pages long, so it would barely take me an hour to read. But one of the most tragic things that happened in 2023 was Jessa Kane deciding to quit writing. She announced with the release of her latest book that that would be her final book ever. She quit because of her issues with piracy, like people stealing her books, uploading them for free, and I guess she just had enough of it. So unfortunately, she is no longer writing, and I am still feeling so bereft over this. Like, I still don't know what I'm gonna do without my Jessa Kane smut. I don't know what I'm gonna do without my Jessa Kane hit every month. I literally was like an addict, okay? So Jessa Kane quitting, one of the saddest things that I've ever been through, and I'm still so sad over it. But for today's video, I wanted to do a little Jessa Kane memorial. I'm gonna be tier ranking all of her novellas from A tier to F tier. Here is my lovely tier maker template for Jessa Kane. If you want to use this, I'll leave a link down below. So starting in A tier, these are the novellas that I will not accept any criticisms about. Even though they probably do deserve criticisms, I will not be hearing them. So these are all going to be my favorite Jessa Kane novellas. For B tier, these are the reasons why Jessa Kane is the queen of smut. C tier, it's like a solid tier. These are still pretty good. Not my favorites, but still not bad. D tier, were these necessary? And then E tier, we're getting down to the dregs. These are the romances where I feel like Jessa needs some therapy. And then F tier, my least favorite Jessa Kane novellas. These are the ones where I feel like I need therapy. So let's jump into tier ranking every single Jessa Kane smutty novella. I'm just gonna go in the order that I have these books. They're not really in any sort of order, they're randomized, but this first one is actually Jessa Kane's debut. Total coincidence that tier maker put this first, but this one is She's Too Young. This was the book that started it all for Jessa Kane and the one that started my love for her. For this reason, I'm putting it in S tier. It's one of my favorites from Jessa Kane. It made me realize how much I love unhinged romance heroes, but the thing about this novella is that it's actually banned and you can't buy it anywhere because the heroine is 17 and going on 18, so technically she's underage, but also technically this novella is set in New York where 17 is the legal age of consent. But of course, Amazon, it didn't matter to them, so they took it down. Do I kind of feel bad that I love this one so much, even though the heroine is 17? I mean, yes, but it was such a good novella. It's told entirely from the hero's point of view, and there's some wild daddy smut going on. It was addicting, and I stand by putting this in S tier. And then we have probably Jessa Kane's most ridiculously titled book. It's called Back River Quiver, and it is a co-write with Alexa Riley. She has several novellas that she co-wrote with them. This one is so strange. The hero is like this sexy swamp man, but he thinks that he's the ugliest thing alive. He literally hunts alligators in a swamp, and then he comes across the heroine who is lost in a swamp and he kidnaps her. I'm putting this in D tier. The swamp thing doesn't really do it for me. And then Don't Look. This one is actually a really interesting one. The Jessa Kane gender roles are kind of flipped here. Jessa Kane is also really known for her stalker heroes, but this time it's the heroine who's the stalker. But it also goes a little off the rails because the first time that they have sex, her dad, like her biological dad, watches them. He watches her lose her virginity with his own eyes, and yeah, that was a lot. Jessa needs some therapy with this one, so E tier. And then this one is called Riley and Kane. It's actually a collection of Alexa Riley and Jessa Kane co-written novellas, but there is one novella that had never been published before. It's called Now You've Done It. It is pretty classic age gap romance from Jessa Kane. He is her dad's best friend who took care of her after her dad's passing, and she's been teasing him since before she was legal. There's breeding king, daddy king, all the dirty talk, so I'm putting this in B tier. Now, The Husband Sitter, this is one of the only novellas, if not the only novellas, where there isn't really a happily ever after. Like, I wouldn't really consider this a romance. It's got a very different feel to it because the heroine becomes this sort of babysitter slash part-time lover for 3 husbands with their wives' permission. It's like an open marriage type of thing, but the no HGA didn't really work well for me. I'm kind of torn between C and D tier for this. I'll just put in C just because the smut still hit. Next is Sacrifice to the Beast. This one is not paranormal like the title would suggest. The hero is just a very beastly hero. It's set in a small town that's being terrorized by a beast, but it's just the hero. The heroine gets sacrificed to him by being tied up to a tree in a wedding dress. The hero is basically like this giant version Tarzan, and he wears a loincloth. It was pretty absurd, but hilarious too, so I'll put it in C tier. Wearing Him Down is one of her stepbrother romances. The hero is ridiculously overprotective of the heroine. He has 12 bodyguards on her 24/7. He builds a whole school for her, so he knows what she's doing at every moment. So yes, he's absolutely a stalker kind of stepbrother, and it was great. B tier. An Innocent Obsession was wild. The main characters here have a literal hair trigger. He comes just from a look from her, and she comes just from him touching her knee. I did kind of love that the heroine was the stalker in this one. She works as a cleaner, and she'll kind of rub herself all over his bed when he's not in his home, and when he does go back home, he can kind of feel her there. This one's also a good one, also gonna be in B tier. Okay, this one is Preacher Man, and as you can tell from this title, it is a preacher-priest romance. This one is actually hilarious. The heroine's mom tells her that she has the devil inside her, but it's basically just her being super horny. So her mom gets the town preacher to perform an exorcism on her, which pretty much turns into a sex exorcism. I could not deal with this one. I might have needed some therapy after I read this, so F tier. The Hitman's Angel is a very sweet mafia romance, like surprisingly sweet from Jessa Kane. It's got a Russian hitman hero who saves the heroine when she's forced to work at her stepdad's sex club. This one's C for me, not bad, but still pretty good. In Pretty Daring, the heroine is the daughter of a billionaire. The hero is the housekeeper's son who just got released from prison. When they have sex in this one, her dad walks in on them, and for some reason they just keep going. This isn't even the only time in this novella that they get watched too. They have sex in front of the heroine's dad's creepy business partner. So not the best one for me. Was this necessary? No. D tier. Alright, and then we have She's Still Too Young, and this one is a sequel to She's Too Young. The heroine is 18 this time. She turns 18 right at the start. It's her 18th birthday. It's just a wild time. I love this duet. Both of my characters are insane, but You know what? I love this one. It has to go in A tier. Now, the mobster's masseuse. This one, the title says it all. The hero is a mobster and he gets a massage for his birthday. The heroine is his masseuse, who of course he becomes obsessed with. He kidnaps her and calls her his queen and constantly wants her to call him her king. This one is not bad at all, still good smut, but I'm just gonna stick it in C tier. The Loner's Lady is a great one. It's a perfect balance of sweet and hot. This one, the heroine falls for her guy best friend's dad while she's fake dating that best friend. The hero is this hot, gruff mountain man, and I loved him. B tier for sure. And then this novella, oh boy, okay, if you couldn't tell from this cover, his forbidden obsession is a nun romance. Like, Jessa Kane wrote a preacher romance and now she has a nun romance. I actually went to take a look at my review for this one on Goodreads, and all I said was, about time Jessa Kane wrote a nun romance. I like this one more than the preacher one though, so C tier. His Outlaw Valentine is wild right from the start. The hero is the heroine's best friend and roommate, and he is insanely obsessed with her. So much so that he licks her spoons after she uses them. He'll sniff her chair after she gets up from them, after she leaves the room. It is absurd, but it's Jessa Kane and I kind of loved it. I probably should put this in E tier. Like, Jessa definitely needs some therapy after writing this one, but I'm putting it in B tier, y'all. And then these next three novellas are actually part of the same series. It's like a Great British Bake Off reality show thing, but Jessa Kane style. It's called the Lights, Camera, and Still Love series. So this first one is the first book, A Pinch of Sugar. It's my favorite one, so it's in B tier. A Dash of Spice is book 2, and this one has a hockey player hero, and he's also a virgin. Is it believable? No. But I still liked it. It's not as good as the first one, so C tier. And A Serving of Forever is the last one. Unfortunately, it didn't really do much for me, so D tier. Next is The Farmer's Daughter, and this one is an MFM romance. It's a threesome set at the heroine's family's farm. One of the heroes is the older farmhand. He gives some good daddy kink. The other one is the younger new hire. It's a good MFM, but not Jessa Kane's best, so C tier. The Perfect Gift is a bit wild. He is a billionaire, of course. She is an innocent virgin, of course. Her sisters force her to give herself and her virginity to the hero so they can blackmail him. These sisters were insane and they actually literally tried to kill the heroine, so this one not really necessary, D tier. And then his prize pupil. This is the one that's in college and the heroine sells her virginity to pay for her tuition. She finds out a week later that the man who bought and took her virginity is her new professor. This one is so hot, lots of kink, lots of possessiveness, B tier for sure. And then Jailbait. Okay, so this one came right after She's Too Young got banned on Amazon because the heroine was 17, and Jessa Kane, being the petty bitch that she is, decided to write Jailbait in a way where we don't actually know the heroine's true age. She could be younger than 18, older than 18, we'll never know. This one Jessa probably needs some therapy for, but I can't bring myself to put it in E tier because I still enjoyed it so much. Like, on the surface it's E tier, but in my heart it's B tier. His Little Secret is another pseudo incest romance with another step something. This time it's a step uncle. He just got out of prison, so he goes to a brothel and the heroine kind of tricks him into having sex with her. She gets pregnant, he reacts horribly, and he does have to do some groveling. This one was very iffy with the consent, surprisingly on his part, because he did not know who he really was having sex with. So I think I have to put this one in E tier. Daddy's Worst Nightmare is an interesting one. The main characters knew each other when they were younger, when she saved the hero's life because she gave him oranges when he was a beggar. He turns around, builds a new life for himself, builds a whole empire. He wanted to be able to provide for her when she became of age, but the thing about this heroine is that she mentally is not an adult. It was a bit too much, like she didn't even know how babies were made. I'm kind of torn between D and E tier for this, but also my friend Desiree, she wrote on her Goodreads review, "The Kiss Thief, but take out the extended plot, D tier." And then we have Husky. This is one of Jessa Kane's many thick hero romances, and it's one of my favorites from Jessa Kane actually. It's B tier for sure. The heroine is this fashion designer and she finds the perfect model in the plus size hero, the steam, the possessiveness. It was so good here. The next two are also part of the same series, but they're about different couples. His summer intern is the MF one. The heroine is on the run from a mental institution, because why not? She comes across the hero's cabin and he thinks that she is the new research assistant that he hired. This one, it's not really my favorite. It was kind of bland, so I'll put it in D tier. The second book is Their Summer Intern, and this one is the MFM one. The heroes are the heroine's new stepbrothers, but I'm pretty sure that the brothers themselves are blood related. The heroine gets hired as their new intern. There's a whole evil stepmother who I think tries to kill the heroine. It went off the rails, so I'll put it in E tier. And then the next two novellas are both part of the MMA series. The Fighter's Prize is the one where the heroine tries to help her dad pay off his debts, his gambling debts, so she kisses the hero who is the fighter. She kisses him to motivate him to win. I also looked at my review for this one and kind of died. I said the hero's last name is Semenov and that's all you need to know to read this one. Based on last name alone, I gotta put this one in B tier. It was a great fighter romance. And then book two is The Kingpin's Weakness. It's about a hot mafia boss who invites the nerdy college student heroine to join his luxury box at the MMA fight. This one is pretty middle of the road, so C tier. Hefty is another thick hero romance from Jessa Kane. This time it's set in high school. The hero is a hefty football player, the heroine is the head cheerleader, and she is also his sister's best friend. This one is so cute. I mean, it's still hot, but also really adorable, so B tier. And then Suddenly His. This one was wild. The heroine works as a cleaner at the hero's offices, and he's been watching her through like the cameras for months. He's been stalking her, so he knows when she accidentally ends up at an auction and he saves her. He bids on her for himself, but the thing about this auction is that in order to claim the prize, he has to have sex with her in front of everyone. This one was a little awkward, so D tier for me. Stepbrother Secret is obviously a stepbrother romance, and the hero is a governor. His new, very young stepsister is very forbidden to him for his political career. Unfortunately, the epilogue in this one shows that they had to keep their relationship a secret for years, even when they had kids, to protect his career. So this was not really enjoyable to read. Not sure what Jessa was going through while she was writing this, so E tier. Pound of Flesh is one of Jessa Kane's older novellas, and I still love this one. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's like the perfect amount of ridiculous. The hero just got out of prison. He was in prison because he wanted to take the heroine's brother's fall. He did it for the heroine's protection because when he met her, she was a bit young. He's wanted her since she was 15, 16, so he takes the fall to protect her brother, who is her only family. He bides his time so that by the time he gets out of prison, she's 18. Like I said, it is ridiculous, but you know what? No shame. I have to put it in A tier because I loved it. And also the grovel at the end hit so hard. We have King Size. This is one of two fantasy romances from Jessa Kane. The heroine here is the queen and the hero is the queen's palace guard. He loves her from afar. He worships the ground that she walks on. It is a very sweet one from Jessa Kane, so B tier. Ooh, okay, so we're finally at some of the stalker titles from Jessa Kane. This one is My Husband, My Stalker. This is probably my favorite one actually out of all the stalker title books. books. The hero is a hitman, and when he sees the heroine on TV after she escapes from a kidnapping, he becomes so obsessed that he cleans up his life. He pretends to be a salesman, like an insurance salesman. He moves in like right next door to the heroine. Also, he can get close to her and marry her. It's just this next level of obsession, and I was totally here for it, so A tier. Queen Size is the other fantasy romance. This time the hero is a king and he wants the heroine as his mistress, and she's like, no, I want an actual husband. It's a fun one. It's definitely a reason why Jessa Kane is the queen of smut, so B tier. Next is In His Custody. It's a classic age gap romance that hits just right. The hero is a police captain and he's also the heroine's new stepdad. He actually married her mom just so he could get close to the heroine. He becomes her sort of discipliner, like in a kinky way, when her mother is gone. It's wild and a little creepy, I'll admit, but I still liked it, so B tier. The Pitcher's Assistant is pretty sweet. It's a sports romance. The heroine is a new sports reporter. She gets berated though, and the hero sees this. He's this famous baseball player, and because it's insta-love for him, he makes it up to her by offering her like an exclusive interview, but it's in exchange for letting him give her pleasure. It's good, but nothing amazing, so C tier. Then there's Burley, another thick hero romance. This one is not the best of the plus-sized hero romances from Jessa Kane. It's an age gap, dad's best friend romance. She's this up-and-coming pop star. He is her new bodyguard. He is also an obsessive stalker and has kept photos of her for a concerningly long time. Like, the smut was good, but was it really necessary? No. So D tier. An Angel for the Devil is a pretty crazy one. The heroine has been obsessed with her landlord ever since he showed up asking her family for rent, but they don't have any money anymore, so they tell her to offer up her body to him as payment for their rent. So everyone in this novella was insane. I guess I have to put this one in E tier. It was just a bit too much. And then My Best Friend, My Stalker is over the top Jessa Kane goodness. I mean, all her stalker books are hilarious and fun. This one, the hero wears a cock cage for the heroine. He wears it as punishment after he goes too far with her. He gives her the only key, so lots of trust and devotion on his part. Have to put it in B tier. Coach's Daughter, title says it all. The hero is a basketball player and he falls for his coach's daughter. It's a pretty simple sports romance just with Jessa Kane daddy kink. There's also not a crazy age gap here from what I remember. It's pretty tame for Jessa Kane, so I will put it in C tier. And then Breaking the Bully has some groveling goodness from Jessa Kane. After a sort of misunderstanding, the hero becomes the heroine's bully in school. When he finds out the truth, he has so much grovel to do. He literally gets down on his knees for her. It's definitely a good one for all the grovel fans. B tier. Taken by the Russian is another co-write with Alexa Riley. It's a bodyguard romance. He is this Russian bodyguard who's been protecting the heroine since she was young, and he promised her dad that he would wait until she turned 18 to claim her. Grooming, question mark, question mark. So E tier. And then Bulky is another age gap, best friend's dad, thick hero romance. It's one of the bigger age gaps from Jessa Kane, though not the biggest. She's 18 and he's 45. It's a little awkward to read because they really go into the little girl daddy kink words. She calls him Papa and Papa Bear, so totally unnecessary for me. D tier. Bossed Around is an interesting one because we have one of the few times where the heroine is the boss and the hero is submissive-ish. I say ish because he's still a Jessa Kane hero. Was it that believable that he was a virgin in his 30s? Not really. But you know what? it was still fun, so C tier. Step Stalker has a Navy SEAL hero who knows that his new stepsister is the one for him, so he stalks her to show his love. He also still wants to be called daddy even though he's the stepbrother. It's not the best of her stalker books, so C tier. These next two, Making Their Vows and Renewing Their Vows, it's a duet that actually follows the same couple. She is this prep school girl, he is an underground fighter. We have a clash of the classes. They're pretty sweet and simple books, so I'll put them both in C tier. Daring the Doctor is a doctor romance. The heroine is this aspiring med student, and the hero is a doctor who is willing to pay for her schooling. He's a surgeon who's just so obsessed with her, and for some reason she says no, she wants to make her own way. I didn't understand it myself, but the smut still hit, so it's like a B, maybe C tier. I'll just put in C tier because the heroine definitely should have taken that money. And then The Way She Burns, this one was a bit much. The hero saves the heroine's life when she was younger, a younger teen, and now that she is older, she asks for some help and in exchange offers up her body. This would be like a typical Jessa Kane read, except she calls him Dada, like during their sexy times. So I don't know what was going on here. I guess Jessa Kane was running out of fatherly titles, but I have to put this in E tier. Caught by the Convicts is a fun one. This one is another menage romance, but it's MMF this time. There is sword crossing between the heroes who are both convicts. They save the heroine when there's a prison break, and they also take her V card during it because obviously there's nothing else to do during a prison break. The premise is ridiculous, but I gotta hand it to Jessa Kane. She made it work. I have to put this in B tier. And then this next one is My Coach, My Stalker. And this is one of the few times where Jessa Kane actually made me very uncomfortable when I was reading one of her novellas. I mean, obviously she's written a bunch of other novellas where the hero has watched the heroine, known the heroine since she was younger, but this was a bit much for me in terms of like what they were feeling. She is an Olympic diver, he is her coach, and he just felt way too predatory for me, so F tier. Coaxing the Roughneck was hilarious. I don't know the kind of shit that goes on in Jessa Kane's mind, like how she comes up with the most random premises, but it's set at a freaking oil rig that the heroine has just inherited. The hero works there, but he's not getting out of it, so she has to coax him out of it with her body. This novella also probably has the biggest Jessa Kane dick. He calls it an elephant cock, and it literally starts ejaculating when he first sees the heroine. It's truly, truly absurd, but am I still gonna put it in B tier? Yes. Bewitching the Boss is Jessa Kane's Halloween-themed novella, C tier. And then Bayou Bruiser, this one, the blurb says it all. He came to collect a gambling debt and left with an angel instead. We have double versions this time. He is a killer, she is this innocent who has been locked up by her father in their basement. It's a solid C tier. Tutoring the Delinquent is one of her new adult romances. It's set in college. It's insta-love between a college delinquent and his new tutor. This one was actually insane because when he proposes to her and she says no, he literally turns around and walks straight into the ocean so he can drown himself. He wanted to kill himself because she wouldn't accept his proposal. First time I read this, I was shook, like actually speechless, but also kind of amazed. But yeah, this one, Jessa definitely needs some therapy for it. E tier. Temp is yet another suicidal hero. I think she wrote Temp and Tutoring the Delinquent back to back or pretty close, so something must have been going on when she wrote those. But it's an office romance where the heroine becomes like a spy to infiltrate the hero's company. He knows who she is though right from the beginning, so he lets her go along with this as a sort of revenge, and there is some groveling at the end when she finds out the truth, but when she first leaves him, he tries to jump off a cliff. This is another E tier for sure. And then we have Truck Driver. I had so much fun with this one. It was great. I'm definitely putting it in B tier, but this hero, he's been assigned to abduct the heroine, but when he sees a photo of her, he instantly falls in love. He passes as a truck driver, stops by the diner that she works at. The banter between them was actually so cute. Is a really good romance, and also the heroine is not barely legal this time, so I guess that's another plus. This next one here is a baby for the boss, and we have a young heroine who is desperate for a baby, and she sees her perfect baby daddy working at her company. She is a genius who runs and owns a whole company, but apparently doesn't know how sex works. Also, the hero's dick is the size of a jumbo Arizona iced tea can, so make of that what you will. I personally will have to put it in D tier. And then Do Me a Favor is such a strange read. The heroine is a ballerina and her coach says she's too horny to perform, so he throws her into this dungeon-like warehouse where his brother is and has been living for like a decade. The hero is this hermit who never leaves this basement and hates women. I truly did not even know what I was reading here. And the coach here, like the hero's brother, was so disgusting, so F tier. And then we have the boss's runaway. The heroine runs away to start a new life in Vegas. The hero is a very religious pit boss at the casino that she wants to work at. Like, he almost became a priest. That's how devout he was, and he's still really devout and kind of sees the heroine as his downfall and his temptation. I could have done with a little bit less religion here, but I'll stick it in C tier. Okay, so this next one is property of Pops, and it is literally a granddad romance. I am truly speechless over how every time Jessa Kane is able to top herself with each new insane book. So yeah, this one, the hero is literally in his 60s. He is her best friend's grandfather. She calls him Pops, and somehow I ended up kind of loving it. I truly am a fucking clown over Jessa Kane. So I have to put this in B tier. It deserves to be in B tier, okay? Please don't come at me for this one. This next one is also pretty freaking wild. It's As If I Wouldn't Fall. It's another one of her high school romances. It's another obsessed hero romance, and all you really need to know to read this one is that the hero has the heroine's name tattooed on his dick on two sides, like this. Honestly, the tattoos seal the deal. There's a reason why Jessa Kane is the queen of wild smut, okay? B tier. And then there's Summer Camp Captive with Alexa Riley. This one is a kinky one. It's a hot summer camp romance. It's definitely one of the better co-writes with Alexa Riley, so I'll put it in B tier. The next one is Enticing the Scrooge. This one is, I think, Jessa Kane's first Christmas romance. I don't remember if she had any other. The hero is literally a descendant of Ebenezer Scrooge. The heroine is a beggar who shows up at his door. He thinks she's a gold digger, but he still needs to get married to get his inheritance, so he marries her. Doesn't treat her the best, so there is some good groveling here. This one did go a bit far because during the wedding, the hero didn't even wait until all the vows were done before immediately consummating the marriage in front of everyone, including the priest. It was a wild time. I could put it in D tier, but I'll go easy and put it in C. We have another sort of farmer romance next. This one is When the Farmer Met the City Girl. There was this hilarious review that I saw on Goodreads, and it said, "Country Mouse meets City Mouse, the porno, beyond unhinged. It's just a caveman farmer running around humping a young blonde woman spurting cum randomly." Which is basically true. It was very, very unhinged and probably not necessary, so D tier. And then there's When You Know, and this one is the one where Jessa Kane was the most self-aware. Like, the heroine here actually realizes how unhealthy and toxic her relationship is with the obsessed hero, but does she actually do anything about it? Well, she tries to get some freedom, but the hero goes insane. He ends up getting a tattoo of her face on his chest. So yeah, even though I did appreciate the self-awareness, pretty sure Jessa Kane does need some therapy because of this one. And then Debutante's Curse was freaking wild. It was so unhinged. Like, this is the first reverse harem why choose romance of Jessa Kane's. There's 3 heroes, but it was so weird, and there's this paranormal twist to it. Like, the heroine gets cursed, and the only way to undo this curse is to have sex with 3 men. It was kind of insane, but also very hot too, I'm not gonna lie. It has to go in C tier. Like, it could go lower. It was just too absurd, but because of the smut, I'm gonna put it in C tier. This next one is called Blast from the Past, and this was so funny. It's a time travel romance. The hero time travels from the past to the present. He's this rancher, and when he sees the heroine in present day, he thinks that she's a prostitute. This guy was so funny, so irreverent. He discovers Siri, he asks it, why can't I say the word whore anymore? He discovers Victoria's Secret and he steals lingerie right from the mannequin. It was just a wild time, super entertaining. So it's like in between B and C tier, but because of how funny it was, I'll just put it in B. And then this next one, I'm so sad to see it because it's Jessa Kane's last book. It's My Stalker, My Protector, and she went all out for this one. We have another deranged hero. He has been stalking and scaring the heroine, who is his best friend's sister, because he's so obsessed with her. She has no idea that he's the one behind it, so when her brother goes away, she stays with the hero for protection, not knowing that he is the one she needs protecting from. It's classic Jessa Kane, you can't go wrong with it. Easy B tier. And then this second to last one is Her Two Protectors. It's an MFM romance with 2 firefighters who save the heroine's life. They're both unhinged, they're both insanely obsessed with her, and they are very possessive, so they kind of fight each other for her, but obviously they have to work together to have her. It's such a good time. I love it. It's an A tier for me. It's definitely one of my favorites. And then this final Jessa Kane book that I have to rank is a co-written one with Alexa Riley. It's Dirty Uncle. I mean, obviously from this title, it's pseudo incest. He's her step uncle. It's a pretty solid Jessa Kane, Alexa Riley read. It delivers exactly what you would expect out of a step uncle romance. There's age gap, taboo, daddy kink, not uncle kink. It's pretty good, so C tier. And that's it for me ranking every single one of Jessa Kane's novellas. If you haven't read Jessa Kane before, you're in for a wild treat. I would recommend starting with the ones that I put in A or B tier, because some of the other ones are a little bit too unhinged, too deranged, but at the same time I did love some wild ones too. But let me know if you've read Jessa Kane before, if you have any favorites from her. I know there are other Jessa Kane fans out there like me who like her ridiculous books, so let me know what you think of my ranking. I had a ton of fun doing this. Hopefully the video doesn't end up being too long, but at the same time I had to talk about over 70 of her novellas. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!